that I haven't thought this through, so it's just it's a hypothesis, it's just a thought, and maybe very loose-ended, and not maybe even, or, I don't know, possible idea, of course. So I don't know, I leave it up to the viewers to also put in their own thoughts towards it and see what they come up with. And I don't know, again, if we're having a discussion about this, that would be most useful. Help me make sense of what I'm saying, and if it does make sense of what I'm saying, to discuss. So the idea is fear, is that, like, I just had a feeling of an idea. I was speaking to a few people on this weekend that in the country, and I felt like people they are fearful, and they're living in fear, but the identity, they are fear themselves. Now it sounds bizarre, like, what do you mean you are fear themselves? Well, that's it, that they are, oh shit, sorry, there's just a car. I mean, do me a favor, people. Jesus, I mean, I don't know what they're doing, driving on the wrong side of the road, over a blind, I mean, anyways. That puts you in fear. So what I'm saying is that you fear itself, like, so, how am I trying to put this? Firstly, your identity and your persona is mostly built out of fear, okay? Mostly built out of fear. Fear of not being approved of, fear of not being accepted, fear of not being noticed, fear of not being valued, fear of not being appreciated, etc., etc. And through that fear of all of these things, we create a persona, an identity that is acceptable and can be approved of. And again, not just to the outside world. Well, let's just put on that way. Firstly, to the outside world. So you got this, you built it up brick by brick, in a way, metaphorically speaking, bit by bit, character by character, line by line. You've built it out of fear. Okay? Again, not because you're weak or whatever it is, sometimes it is because of that, but I'm saying as a child, we have built up our personas to be accepted by others, to be approved, to be valued, in a way. So it's, in other words, we've manifested and created our personas and identity through fear. That's been our motivation, not through love, but through fear. And so the personalities that we wear are essentially based out of fear, and are living in fear. So, and pain and deep wounds. Okay, we can get into the idea of wounds as well, how we are living in the depth of our wounds without even realizing it. And the persona, the ego, the identity is protecting us from the reality of the fear and the wound that we live in. Okay, that's what the ego does. It actually helps us in a very overly efficient way to be able to wake up in the morning and wear the mask very well, our personality and ego very well. Okay, and in order to get by in this character without having a meltdown. In other words, without being completely and utterly overwhelmed and consumed by the wound and the fear that we are living in. So that's part of the ego's job. It's got many jobs, and I'm using the word ego lightly, because I'm not even sure what that means. But that's the ego's job, is enabling you to be able to wake up in the morning and get by. Okay. We can talk about for myself, what anxiety can possibly mean. And anxiety a lot of the time can really be an indication that from the self, or the imperial self, or the soul, or the spirit is being ignored, is not being honored, is not in alignment, is dormant, and therefore anxiety is a result of too much. In a way, there's different types of anxiety, but too much ego that's in control, too much fear that exists within the template of the being, including within the body as well, because the body is also part and parcel of one's makeup and one's shadow and one's ego and many other things. It's not just the mind or the emotions, it's also massively part of the body, which is something else. And so anxiety is a result of, some anxiety is a result of, and depression is a result of too much fakery, too much dishonesty within the psyche, if you want to call it, within the being, too much underdevelopment, too much regression, okay, and so on and so forth. But which is shrouded in, it's all encompassed in fear, if you know what I mean. Okay, I mean, I'm saying quite a few things here. Fear is the predominant emotion or energy that's being expressed, and pain is predominantly the experience that's being had. Deep wound, deep vulnerability, not just of what other people may think, but what you think about yourself, your relationship with yourself, your relationship towards yourself, and your mistrust of the self, your fear of yourself, of your being, of your spirit, of your, I don't know, your imperial self or your consciousness or something, right? So it's a relationship with yourself, and then it's relationship with the mystery, if you know what I mean. With nature, you can put it with nature. Okay. So in all rounds, in other words, it's not just on a people level. Okay, that there is this fakery going on, or there is this fear of maybe not being accepted or not belonging or something or other. Okay, it's also based existentially in regards to, you can call it spirit or nature. In other words, that these people are driving badly, sorry folks, that you just really got to concentrate. That's where I lose my concentration, because how badly people drive. Probably drunk as well, and now I'm going to try not lose my concentration. So it's not just, so it's about this, it's about like relationship with also your destiny. Okay, that's also another thing. Absolute fear of being alive. Okay, fear of being in the flesh, fear of your own mortality, which is often very natural. But what I'm saying is more of a fear of existence, and of the connectedness to nature and to spirit and to the mystery. Like, what I'm saying is that we have such a fear of, well, depending on how you were raised, but many people have such a fear of God, unhealthy fear of God. We have such a fear of the unknown. We have such a fear that of our lack of worthiness to be part of anything divine or sacred. Because in ourselves, there is nothing divine or sacred. How can there be? It's just fear-based. It's all just fear. Like I said. And what is fear? Fear, in a way, is your, how can I put it? Fear, in a way, is very distracting. Sorry, I can't trust you, man. There's people hitchhiking, and I know that you're desperate, but I just don't know what your game is, man. I'm sorry, folks. It's hard to see someone standing in the boiling hot sun, and I've got a car that can fit 4 other people, and I've got the aircon on here, and I'm whatever, very blessed and in this way. And there's a guy who's standing out on the side of the road and hitching, and I could easily give him a lift, but I don't know if he could hijack me, mug me, and I don't know if he has a gang, a bunch of guys up the road who he would just inform about about me, and they'll catch me, and that's the end of me. So I just can't take that risk. So coming back is that if you don't feel anything divine about yourself or sacred about yourself, or good about yourself, then how can you really feel part of anything that is good, or anything that is divine, or anything that is sacred? Do you see? You can't. If you don't feel that you can, let's say, I don't know, you're a tennis player, one of the world's best, but if you don't feel that you are the world's best, then how can you ever compete with anybody else on such a grand level? You can't, because you feel inadequate. And a little bit of inadequacy is fine, but complete inadequacy, complete incompetency, completely, like completely undeserving. How are you going to play? How are you going to perform? If you're an actor and you feel that you can't act, you have so much self-doubt. You can't do it. You can't move anywhere without self-confidence. That's what I'm saying. In this aspect, you can't move one step forward in authenticity if you don't believe in yourself, whatever that means. If you don't value yourself, you can't. It's impossible, I find. In an honest, authentic way, you can move forward in a very illusionary Maya way. You can, in a persona way, that you can move forward in, and that you can work. You can always keep building your ego, building your persona, building your identity. But you can't move forward in a growthful, mature, transformative way if you don't value yourself. If you don't value your pain, you don't value your fear, you don't value your wounds, if you don't value your virtues, your potentials, right, your uniqueness, your talents, your skills, your sensitivity, whatever it might be. If you don't know who you are, you can only move forward in Maya, in illusion. You can only create further illusion. Okay? And that's what we do, and that's why we're based in fear. Okay, so that's something else. So we're based in fear. So we're based in fear on many forms. Okay, but we live in fear. We live in fear that our lives are a mistake. That we were born as a mistake. For many of us, we do. Or wish that we were never born at all. In fact, like that, it's a cosmic joke that you were born. It's like you're born into bondage, into trauma, into the matrix, whatever it is. It's like sadistic. A lot of people feel this way, folks. To be alive is sadistic. To be born is sadistic. There's no beauty in it. That's another word, beauty. You can't have any room for beauty if there's only pain. You can find beauty in the pain, which is meaning in the pain and the suffering and the wound. That's what we're trying to do as well at the same time. But why do we do that? To see beauty in pain and suffering and meaning? Is because we ourselves in our lives have purpose and meaning. So coming back, when you see complete only identity is also healthy, there's no question about it, but you're using identity, and identity is not using you. You own identity doesn't own you. That's where the balance lies. That you own identity, that you work with identity in order to get by, because we live in a world of masks. When I mean identity, I mean mask in a way. So what I'm saying is that in order for you to be understood by all the other mask wearers, you need to wear a mask to a certain degree. It's actually very healthy. It's very important that so you can manage and get by. You can work with the ego. I think that's what the ego is there for. You can work with it. You can tame it in a way, not to be disrespectful to the ego, because it's a very sacred and divine thing in itself. So you can tame it. You can train it sometimes in a way. It's a bad word to use. Let's not say it like that. But you get what I mean. The ego doesn't have to run the show. Like your shadow doesn't have to run the show, or your fear doesn't have to run the show. But that's something else. There's many parts of ourselves that we need to incorporate into our being and identity and personality, that's something else, Incorporating your dark side. Very, very important. Absolutely. But that's another discussion. So, when too much identity or mask is that the person is living in fear, they don't know that they're living in fear. Like I said, they are oblivious to the fact that they're living in fear. But of course, why wouldn't they be? And they would. That's a big, tall order. That's a huge thing of what I'm saying. Sorry, that's a huge thing of what I'm saying. Is that all true? It really is that people are living subconsciously or under the surface in absolute fear. It's a huge thing to say. And for myself, that makes sense, because it's like when I talk to people about reality or truth or themselves or fear itself or just something that's conscious or mindful, they don't want to hear of it. You know what I'm talking about. They don't want to hear about the unconscious. They don't want to hear about their shadow. They don't want to hear about these things. They stay far away from it. Why? Why do people stay far away from this? They don't want to know it. Okay, why? Truth. Let's say, why do people want to stay away from truth? They don't want to hear it. They don't want to know it. Why? Why are they uncomfortable with it? Why do they fear it? And almost truth in a way, in this context of what I'm talking about, truth in a way is freedom. Truth is that your persona is running the show, that your mask is running the show, that you're living in fear. But obviously no one wants to know that kind of truth. No one wants to imagine that could be the case. I think a part of us knows it. I mean, even for myself, a part of us knows it. But yet we wish to deny it. There's no question about it. So there's a part of us that knows it. Deep down inside, if we have to get really quiet and really honest, right, we can really bring up the heebie-jeebies in ourselves, our darkness, and our fear, and our anxiety. We can really face it if we wish to do so. if one desires to do so, but no one desires. So that's what I'm saying, is that you try and bring truth to people or live truthfully, and they will be very disappointed and uncomfortable with you, and somewhat in fear of you as well, and they can harm you as well. We've seen that in history. We've seen that. So it's fear of where they're coming from and where they reside in. So they're fearful of everything if you're fearful of the truth, because truth is really what there is, in a way. Fundamentally, it's all truth. It's all true. And so we are scared of truth and fundamentally of what is. And so we are living in fear. You see, we're living in fear of our own lie, of our own self-deception. And we're doing it to ourselves. No one wants to know that. No one wants to see that. Forget about it. People spend their whole life, it's amazing, they can spend their whole life in this fear without them even knowing it. How amazingly well we avoid it. We are not only are we the greatest pretenders, right, but we are the greatest of deniers and avoiders and distractors. That's not such a word, you know. We are the greatest. We are the greatest performers you could ever imagine, and to our own detriment ultimately. Because who's it really serving? It's only serving the beast. I don't like to use that word. It's only serving the system, really. It's not. That's what it's in service to. It's service to the crowd, okay, to the hive mind, to Libria, as he says in Equilibrium, when she says, "Why do you live?" You know, to Cleric, I don't know, John Cleric, and he says, John Cleric, isn't that interesting? Again, Jesus Christ. I think that's what his name is, could be wrong, but it's often a Jesus Christ figure or name in the movie, like he does in Equilibrium. She says, why do you live? I live to serve Libria, to serve the greater good, you know, of the system. And then you're a slave, Neo. And that's it, we are slaves. Who wants to hear that as a truth? And again, not just, you're a slave to fashion, you're a slave to technology, you're a slave to consumerism, you're a slave to your identity, basically. And then everything else is provided for you. The system provides everything else for you to feed your identity and your personality, and feed you the distractions and all the numbing agents that you need, right, to keep the lie going. But again, you're just riddled in pain and fear, and you know nothing else. So what really can you give to somebody else? What can you, this is intense, what can you give to somebody else if you're only living in fear? Excuse me. Let's see if this is still recording. I'll be frustrated if it isn't. Yeah, it's still going, I think. I hope you can still hear me alright. I don't know. Otherwise I'm just speaking to myself. So what can you give to others? Fear. And more, you can give them pain. You can give them. You can bring. You know, that's what are you going to give to others? And that's heavy, folks. What are you going to? What can one give to their children? If that's all they have. All they have is mask. All they have is persona. All they have is identity. That is all accumulated and built from and manifested from fear and pain. So, what are you going to give them? You're going to give them peace. You're going to give them self-awareness. You're going to give them truth. You're going to give them beauty. You're going to give them honesty. No, you're not. It's going to give them false love, unconditional love, which is false love in the first place. I'm saying to your children and to many others as well. Right? Because what else are you going to give them? What fruits have you bared? Fruits of real fruits, I'm saying, or blackjacks. You know blackjacks? It's a weed. You get them caught on your trousers, or whenever you walk in the fields, or when the blackjacks are there and they hook onto your trousers, into your pants, your shorts, whatever you're wearing. You have to pull them off one by one. Blackjacks. Is that the fruits of your labors? Blackjacks, thorns, or fruits? If you know what I mean. Yeah, folks. It goes deep, eh? It really, really does. I could be wrong about this, obviously, but this is what I feel to be true. Because I feel that people, you can see if someone's living in fear by many ways. But one of the things is that you can pick it up in them. But one of the things is that they can't do anything that they wish to do. They have no confidence whatsoever. They're following everybody else. You can see that they haven't come up with anything original in their lives or for themselves. They haven't found any of their own gifts that they were gifted with, their own genius. You can see, like, they can be a boss of a company, a CEO. They can, but it's just part of the system that they've fallen into. They've done it. They're running the same businesses as everybody else is running. You know, they haven't done anything original, original, let's say. In a way, they've given up on themselves in so many ways. They're just giving up on themselves, and they just can't get out of the ruts that they're in, out of the depression that they're in, out of the despair that they're in. You know, they can't get out of these things. And I'm not saying that these things are bad, depression and despair, but they can't move from it. They can't actualize anything. They can't self-actualize, and they can't actualize anything into their world, or anything of beauty, or anything that they can really be proud of. They just find that just being they just create misery, and they just don't have any ability. That's what I'm saying. Their hands are absolutely tied. They can only be self-destructive. That they feel confident in. That they can rely on. Right? They can rely on being more self-destructive than self-empowering. That you can see. And so you can feel it in the person. You can feel it when all their hopes and dreams in themselves have amounted to nothing. Right? You can see it in the way that they talk and in their future and whatever it is. That they given up on themselves. They have no hope. They have no meaning. Right? You can see it. And many other things which, I don't know. There's so many tail signs of somebody who's not living within their potential, within their ability, within their well-being, that are living within their wounds and in fear. There's so many. And so ending off on this, folks, that I feel that it comes down to, again, a sense of lack of self-worth, self-value, self-credibility, self-beauty, anything to do with their true self, the authentic being, their natural authentic being, which is bizarre. It's like it's just what you are, man. it's just what you are, and then there's further becoming, obviously, but it's just what you are. It's just embrace what you are about, man. Not what you are about. It's can't into words. Just by nature, it's just that you've been removed from it. You've been disconnected from it, but it's there. It is really, truly there in each one of us. But it's the last place we want to go to. It's the last place we want to own, in what we're about, whatever, It's the last place. Anyways, folks, I've got to concentrate here somewhat. The cars are overtaking me, and the road is wet, full of potholes. I really shouldn't be talking for so long. Yeah, this is just how people are driving. So I got to end off here. But I really enjoyed our little chat here, if you do ever get to hear this. And yeah, I don't know. It's what it is. So if I'm somewhat correct on some of these musings of mine, or insights of mine, or maybe they're not even insights of mine, but then there's a lot to chat about, folks. It really is. We shall chat soon. Take care.